Good evening, everybody. It's David Schlotthauer here in the home weather office with another detailed update on Hurricane Erin for your Tuesday afternoon here on the 18th day or 19th day of August. Sorry, my vision's bad here, 2025. And what you're looking at here is a 3D dimensional image of Hurricane Erin tonight as it remains a category 2 with 105-mile-an-hour winds. We're going to be looking over all of the models and details on major Hurricane Erin tonight as it inches closer and closer to the Carolina coast, where we do already have tropical storm warnings and storm surge warnings in effect, including for Chesapeake Bay under a tropical storm watch. So we'll be breaking down all of the details right now. So to start off, let's take a look here at our infrared satellite imagery. And what we have right now is, of course, a sign that Erin is trying to make a comeback here as vertical wind shear was plaguing the system out of the northwesterly direction. That shear has pretty much abated here, although there is still a little bit of asymmetry to the cloud shield, mainly to the northeast of the system is where we're seeing our strongest winds. However, not much of that is being represented over here due to some of that westerly and west-northwesterly vertical wind shear. But where Erin is currently, we have vertical wind shear that is generally under about 5 to 10 knots right now, and that shear has been weakening throughout the day. So it would not be surprising if we are starting to see a inner core trying to form right here with some deep convection that we have. Now, we did get a Air Force Hurricane Hunter aircraft in there and is now in progress investigating Erin tonight. And what we have so far is very, very strong winds that are well to the northeast of this circulation here. When I mean by a inner core structure, there's not really much of one here at the moment, but with all that deep convection that is firing up on that one side, which we'll look at here on a microwave pass, it would not be surprising to see that we do start seeing winds do increase a little bit more closer to the center here. And we're probably beginning to see a little bit of that happening on its recent outgoing leg here in the northeastern side. Surface pressures have not dropped and are only at 960 millibars. So this is a fairly deep system still, but not as deep as it was where basically yesterday early morning it was like in the 930s. Now it's in the 960s. So we have seen general weakening over the last day or so, but since that vertical wind shear is backing away slowly but surely, we are going to start seeing maybe some slight strengthening take place over the next 12 to 24 hours before Erin undergoes more weakening yet again due to baroclinic interaction, its large wind field, and of course some cooler sea surface temperatures well to the north of the system that it will be running into. But right now, as it stands, Erin is in a fairly good environment where it can start strengthening a little bit more. Just how much strengthening, we don't know yet. I'm only increasing this by 5 miles an hour from where it is at right now, probably about 105 to 110 miles per hour. But given that we do have what appears to be an inner core structure that is forming already from earlier today, this is what we pretty much had on Erin, how that whole inner core structure completely eroded. And towards the last bit of frames here, we can start seeing what appears to be an eye wall-like future trying to form here. And we can see in its recent frames, we do have what appears to be that inner core structure trying to get its act together. However, it may not serve it very well because we have an outer band that the plane found, and that's where the strongest winds are being found at the moment. And the western eye wall here looks to be still open off towards the west. So now timing this all out on the HAVS-A model, which stands for Hurricane Analysis Forecasting System. And when we play this through here, you can see that the winds will be on the increase here primarily to the northwest of the circulation, right off the coast here, where we have some of the strongest winds moving over Cape Hatteras, over basically the Outer Banks of North Carolina, where we have those winds that are sustained anywhere between 25 to about 40 miles an hour. So we are looking at some tropical storm force winds and wind gusts along the Carolina coast over the next 24 to 36 hours as Erin remains a very large, powerful hurricane. Surface winds as sustained offshore will remain at around that 90 to 100 mile an hour mark. That's what we expect here. So some additional weakening is not out of the question after about the 24-hour mark as Erin makes its journey northward. And then, of course, it undergoes some baroclinic dynamic changes here internally, where we have a little bit of a warm frontal future here. We might have a bit of a trowel on the backside, and that's going to help to increase the winds a little bit more, especially on the northwestern side, where we have northerly winds here at almost 100 miles an hour, keeping this a formidable hurricane over the next 4 days. When we look at our halves B model, similar model, but only a little bit different here, we can see still what appears to be very strong winds here in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, including for Cape Hatteras, where you have sustained winds between 25 to about 40 miles an hour with hurricane force winds off towards the or offshore, where we have those sustained winds of about 100 miles per hour. Now, of course, the wind field with Erin is going to continue to expand overnight tonight. And you can see that this is going to grow. Now, I did see some comments saying that this is going to be a nothing burger. It's going to be a fish storm. In fact, some people are ignoring this system, which I highly, highly not recommend, because we are going to have some life-threatening storm surge, or not life-threatening storm surge. Let me get my words straight. Life-threatening surf and large breaking waves along the coast here of the Carolinas and the Northeast, and even across portions of Georgia and Florida with some of those rip current risks because of how large this wind field is actually going to be. All this purple on your screen denotes that we have hurricane force winds in the low levels of the atmosphere, with, of course, the brighter pink colors indicating stronger winds. And this is going to continue to expand in intensity and in size as we go over the next 84 hours here by Friday night into early Saturday morning, as this clips the northeast coast, including for Nova Scotia, as well as, of course, getting out there into the North Atlantic here as more of a hybrid-like system. Now, vertical wind shear, like we talked about in the video today, that vertical wind shear is going to be abating, as we can see here. So not much in the way of deep layer shear over the next 24 or so hours. And that's going to allow the system to further strengthen up a little bit more. When we take a look here at our halves B or halves A upper level winds, you can see not much in the way of vertical wind shear coming in out of the southwesterly direction, with good outflow on the northern side. And that is why this system is going to remain quite strong as it undergoes some of those baroclinic changes with that jet stream that is to the north of the system, like we talked about in the video and like we talked about yesterday. Now, I will bring this forward to you all with the wave, or the surfing wave forecast. And what we have here is, of course, some really large breaking waves that will continue to increase as we go throughout Wednesday and into Thursday. You can see the yellow colors here, orange colors indicate waves anywhere between about 14 to 20 feet, perhaps, with some breakers exceeding 20 to even 25 to 30 feet. And those waves will continue to get bigger along the Cape Hatteras coast in the next 51 hours, where we have 25 to 30 foot waves that are anticipated. And that's going to continue all the way over the next 3 days. And as Erin pulls away, those waves will get lesser and lesser and lesser. And you could actually go enjoy the beach again in the next 5 to 7 days. All right, so that's what we're dealing with the surf, and you guys need to take this seriously. I've repeated myself way too much in these videos, and a lot of people are not taking this seriously, because I looked at my comment section, I looked at my previous videos, and people are not taking this seriously. So please If you're under an evacuation order, please evacuate, okay? If you're right along the coast there in Cape Hatteras in North Carolina, with maybe evacuations possible, a very slim possibility there in Virginia. So please take that into consideration, all right? Because this is certainly a very dangerous hurricane with very large breaking waves that are anticipated. Here's a look at the rip current risk from the National Hurricane Center, and we can see clearly that there is a high risk for large breaking waves and some storm surge all the way down here from near Miami, Florida, all the way northward into downtown New York area, Long Island, under a high risk for rip currents, possibly even an extreme risk for rip currents here in South Carolina and North Carolina, including for far eastern Virginia there along the coast. So if you are planning to go to the beach tomorrow and also on Wednesday, or no, wait, Thursday, please do not do so. We are talking about life-threatening rip currents, maybe even some life-threatening storm surge conditions, especially where winds are strongest. So that is the thing that we are monitoring, is indirect impacts such as high winds from near tropical storm force winds, and of course, some very rough surf along the coast. Here's a look at the storm surge forecast. And as we can see here over over Cape Lookout, we have a risk of seeing up to 4 foot of storm surge, including for Pamlico as well as Pongo, up to 1 to 3 feet there across the river there. Neos and Bay rivers about 1 to 3 feet. And of course, up here in Chesapeake Bay, we're looking at about 3 feet of storm surge, perhaps, from a hurricane that is not even making landfall. So let's keep that in mind here. And we take a look at the reasonable arrival time of tropical storm force winds. We can see here anywhere between basically Wednesday afternoon along portions of North Carolina all the way into Wednesday night, as well as portions here of southern New Jersey, as well as if you're in Maryland as well as Delaware, arriving there perhaps as early Thursday morning. So this is going to be a very slim impact. I would not be surprised if Long Island here does get tropical storm force wind gusts. Even so, you are not seeing chances of those winds. All right, keep that in mind. The wind field here is larger than what the chances allow, and that needs to be taken into consideration. We will, here is the 11 o'clock advisory from the National Hurricane Center. And again, we have winds that are about 100 miles an hour. So we are continuing to see weakening here, but the NHC still shows that the system is going to re-strengthen as it gets closer and closer to the North Carolina coast. So again, winds are at 100 miles an hour. This is going to intensify to a major hurricane by Thursday morning and then become a hurricane thereafter. And then I do expect somewhere in this area vicinity, we are expecting extratropical transition into a very strong high latitude non-tropical cyclone, hence its name, extratropical, that is, or post-tropical cyclone over here at the end of the forecast period on days 2 and 3. So again, we are looking at a major hurricane here with winds that do look to peak at around 110 to 115 miles per hour. So let's take a look here at the discussion from the National Hurricane Center, and let's take a look here with what they are forecasting. So in their discussion, they do explicitly show 115 mile an hour winds in about 36 hours. So there is roughly another 24 to 36 hours to which this is able to strengthen a little bit more efficiently. And we can see that here on the NHC. So right now it's at 100 miles an hour. It's going to be 105 by tomorrow morning, could be a little stronger than this, and 110 by 24 hours, and then up to about 115 by 36 hours. So not only the wind field is going to grow here, but we're also looking at a major hurricane yet again as of the 12Z forecast here on the 21st of August. So yes, I'm starting off the bell ringing for an active Atlantic hurricane season here to really get going. by the early part of September, and we're going to ring the bell with a major hurricane, perhaps from the National Hurricane Center. When we actually read their discussion really quickly here for you all that are wondering. So Erin has become a little better organized during the past several hours. Conventional satellite imagery shows persistent strong convection near and to the north of the center, while microwave overpasses and reports from an Air Force Hurricane Hunter aircraft indicate that the eye wall is trying to reform. So basically with what I was saying here, that an eye wall is trying to form here. Even so, objective satellite imagery does not show, and it looks kind of anemic-ish. Look, when we take a look here at the discussion, there is an eye wall trying to form, and how fast will this form and how much intensification or re-strengthening can actually occur is a bit uncertain here. So it's trying to form. However, these changes have not yet resulted in a tighter inner core wind field, and the maximum 700 millibar flight level winds of 107 knots were measured about 100 miles nautical miles from the center. Based on this, the flight level winds closer to the center and satellite intensity estimates, the initial intensity is being decreased to a possibly generous 85 knots. So meaning, again, we are now in a low-grade Category 2 hurricane. The initial motion is now 340 degrees at 10 knots, and the hurricane remains situated in a weakness break in the subtropical ridge and is expected to turn northward along the western side of the ridge on Wednesday. After that, Erin should turn northeastward with some acceleration as it moves into the southern portion of the mid-latitude westerlies over the North Atlantic. There are no significant changes to the philosophy of the track guidance. So we're looking pretty good on that. Very tightly packed. So we have very high confidence in this. Now, for the next 36 hours, Erin will be an environment of light to moderate vertical wind shear and strong upper level divergence. Much of the intensity guidance suggests that the hurricane should strengthen during this time. If the spread out wind field can become more concentrated near the reformed eye wall, on the basis of this happening, the new intensity forecast calls for slow strengthening during the next 36 hours. However, an alternative scenario is that the central pressure falls considerably without a lot of increase in the winds as the hurricane grows larger. After 36 hours, the increasing shear and the start of extratropical transition should cause weakening, and Erin is now forecast to become an extratropical low by 96 hours. So even so, we see a lot of pressure falls with our hurricane here. Does not mean it's going to strengthen a whole lot. There are some scenarios that suggest that this does get down back into the upper 930 millibar range in 24 hours, even 36 hours, yet we don't see much of an increase in winds because our wind field is so large that the isobars don't have to really get tightly packed like a compact system. That is why larger systems like this, a lot of people underestimate them because of the wind field in itself. So it should be noted that the 34 to 50 knot wind probabilities beyond 36 hours in the text and graphical products are likely underestimating the risk of those winds occurring. This is because the forecast wind field of Erin is considerably larger than average compared to the wind field used to derive the wind probability product. So in other words, our winds on this system are much larger. Okay, and this wind field is going to grow even bigger than it already is. So please take that into consideration with this hurricane, especially the fact that it now could become a major hurricane yet again, not too far off the coast of North Carolina. All right, so that really is it with Erin, because this is going to be strengthening, and not much has changed since the afternoon video here on Erin in itself. So therefore, because of this, though, we will probably be live streaming tomorrow night, of course, on this, maybe even doing some live coverage for about 6 to 12 hours as well. We'll have to see about that. But as it stands now, this is going to be a powerful hurricane, regardless of how close it actually is to the coast. All right. So let's take a look now at the long range forecast, because I'm sure a lot of you are wondering now, is there going to be a calm spell out there in the tropics? It does appear to be that way as we end out August. Things look to be getting a lot quieter out there in the Atlantic. Even so, there are a couple of areas to watch closely. Most of the favorable conditions are going to be mainly focused here over the Western Pacific. Things might shift a little bit back towards Africa yet again by early September. We are going to need to watch this, though, as this gets closer, because if all of this green area moves over Africa as well as India and some of it spills into the Atlantic, we could have another busy mid-September period coming, as you can potentially see here. So right now it doesn't look to be very concerning right now, but of course things could always change very, very quickly. All right, now when it comes to the extended forecast, we have all this upward motion in the atmosphere, of course, all the way through the early to the middle part of September. And then, of course, perhaps by the latter part of September into early October, we have another favorable anomaly that is going to be moving over much of the central Atlantic as well as Africa, including for the Caribbean. And that is why I think once we get into the middle to the latter part of September, I think it's go time. We are going to see a hyperactive period potentially coming up towards the end of September into early October. All right. And so looking at our global tropical hazards outlook here, you can see anything here highlighted by the Climate Prediction Center denotes that there is a low chance of tropical development between the latter part of August into early September, which I am not leaning towards that very much at this time, with better chances perhaps by the early to the middle of September, especially in the Caribbean, the Southern Gulf, and the MDR. So we will need to keep our eyes watching out here in the deep tropics for the first full week of September. Now, when we take a look here at, let's go to here, move my tabs over. And so basically this is what we have as far as sea surface temperatures. These are quite warm, well above average for this time of the year. As you can see, over the Caribbean, over the Western Atlantic, as well as the Gulf and the Western Atlantic. The Caribbean, water temperatures anywhere between about 2 to 4 degrees above actually more like up to 5 degrees in some areas. You can see the cold wake left behind Erin here. I'm sure we're going to have a big gouge cut through here with a lot of upwelling of much cooler water beneath the hurricane. So all of the above average sea surface temperatures here are going to look a whole lot different in the next 1 to 3 days as we have that powerful hurricane. But otherwise, the deep tropics here looking quite warmer than average than what we were dealing with pretty much a couple of months ago. Back in like June, we were looking at below average sea surface temperatures out here in the MDR. Now, looking at the actual sea surface temperatures here, very warm in the Gulf, very warm in the southwestern Atlantic. But again, this is going to get chewed away by Erin, leaving much of the Caribbean here really warm right now, untapped, ready for the rest of the hurricane season. And already up here, water temperatures are warming up very quickly. And where these systems do come off, water temperatures are already favorable for tropical development. Let's give it a little bit more time, though, into very early to mid-September when these waters will be at their warmest, furthest north extent. And so anything that comes off of Africa could have an opportunity of developing a little bit better as it moves further west. All right, so that's a look at the sea surface temperatures. Now looking at the upper ocean heat content, this is basically telling us how much heat is being stored below the surface of the ocean. So the deeper this goes, the more red colors you actually get here. And this is basically your anomalies. So basically most of the Caribbean here in the eastern portion is running well above normal with upper ocean heat content, including for portions of the southwestern Caribbean running above average right now from where we should be for this time of the year. So keep that in mind. Now, when we take a look at our actual upper ocean heat content, I mean, these purple colors here are off the charts. So over perhaps Jamaica, over the northwestern Caribbean, I mean, we are 180 to 200 units, okay, Remember, like a month ago or so, this was not this significant. So this has really, all that heat, the lack of trade winds here have really allowed the Northwestern Caribbean to really heat up very sufficiently, including the Gulf, where we have really high upper ocean heat content right now. In fact, if we do look at the Gulf, you can see right about here, there is the loop current where we have extreme values of upper ocean heat content. And much of the western and southwestern Gulf is running really warm right now, not just at the surface, but also below the surface as well. So imagining if we get any Gulf hurricane or system this year, we are going to really need to be very mindful of how warm these waters actually are. All right, so that's a look at the sea surface temperatures. A fairly short discussion, actually. Man, I only took 25 minutes to get into this, which is great news. And so we could open up to questions. I'm not going to be live here very long tonight since there hasn't been much more in the way of significant updates here. But probably will definitely be live tomorrow night, of course, as far as it goes with the chances of this really intensifying. And if it does something pretty surprising, we could certainly be likely to live stream even into the semi-overnight hours, at least probably for about 12 or so hours. Not going to do an all-nighter, though, but we'll probably be live streaming quite a while if necessary. It just depends on how this all evolves. But how's everybody doing? Welcome, welcome. And it's an honor that you're here tuning in to tonight's live stream. Man, I don't know how many times I've been live in the last week. Probably I can count roughly about 5 or 6 times I've been live, making up for the lack of live streaming that we had in July and early August. So if you all haven't been here before and you're new to the channel and you absolutely like these detailed tropical weather updates, live discussions, including my video updates on the tropics on a daily basis, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It really, really, really helps out a lot. I cannot believe we're almost up to 53,000 subscribers, all thanks to your guys' awesome generosity here of during these live streams and also in my YouTube videos. But I'll tell you, there has been so much competition out there on this system. It's been unreal how much competition there is. Will I do a winter outlook? I am going to do that hopefully on... I'm probably going to make one. I don't know how that's going to work, but I'm looking into doing one soon. I know some of you have been waiting patiently, but with Erin going on, we had to kind of take a pause on that. Erin popped out of the blue and it was like, okay, we have to work on doing and keeping you all updated here on Erin. Oh, there was an earthquake on the East Coast? Wow. You're very welcome, Beryl. I appreciate it. Glad you like listening to me. So yeah, this is a look at the hurricane right now. Looks like it is trying to get its act together here with higher cloud tops. A very symmetrical looking central dense overcast. Again, an eye is trying to form as we speak. Yes, we have an eye that is in the early stages of developing. And we will wait and see if the pressures actually start falling when the plane gets back in there and when they give us a drop zone reading. And once they give that to us, we'll see if the system has strengthened a little bit more. I will definitely keep it up, Hypersonic 777. Joe Wilson, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome. So yeah, if you guys are tuning in live right now, we are tracking major, or not, well, soon to be major Hurricane Erin yet again, as it inches closer and closer to near the coast of North Carolina here. We don't have cameras out, but what we do have out is tropical storm warnings and storm surge warnings. You can find this on the National Hurricane Center page for more information on that. But yeah, you can see Erin is trying to show signs of strengthening. Based on our microwave imagery, did show that Erin is developing an inner core structure, which tells us deep convection is increasing slowly but surely. And this has become a lot more symmetrical, at least in the CDO sense, than we had early this morning when it was really, really getting sheared apart. Now it looks like it is a lot more healthier tonight than it was very early this morning. And we will see how quick this evolves overnight tonight into tomorrow, if and yet we can get a well-established inner core structure on this. Will this affect the Carolinas? Yes. Eastern North Carolina, there is definitely a tropical storm warning out. These are the warnings that are currently in effect for that area. Primarily in the Outer Banks is under that tropical storm warning at this given time. Thank you, D. Liz, for the $1 donation. Thank you, Jordan Fate, for the $20 donation. I do appreciate that very much. So yes, this becoming a major hurricane is certainly a possibility, okay? But because of the structure here and the large wind field, it's really not going to matter. A 15-mile-an-hour increase, that would likely talk about the core of the winds, which would stay offshore. So pretty much things haven't changed much for North Carolina. But if this gets a lot stronger than what the NHC is predicting, which is always a non-zero chance, then impacts being felt more inland could be a possibility. But right now, there is pretty good confidence that this system is going to safely stay far enough offshore where hurricane force winds are not going to be impacting the far eastern coast of North Carolina. But just tropical storm-like conditions are anticipated. The peak hurricane season has already arrived. Yeah, pretty much. We got that upward, that big jump in the increasing activity, but that does not mean necessarily in early September we're going to see a lot of named storms. Right now, the MJO, let's actually look at that really quickly while we're waiting for more aircraft data to come in. So the MJO forecast here, MJO, as we look at its index here from the European model, we can see where the MJO is going to be headed. Right now, we are pretty much in phase 3. If this was a little bit more amplified and a little bit more organized, then we would be dealing with maybe another named storm out there threatening maybe the Bahamas again. But this MJO is going to de-amplify, and it's going to go into the null phase here where there's not a whole lot of coherent MJO activity. In fact, it's very disorganized with only a couple of convective coupled Kelvin waves as well as maybe some Rossby wave activity. Then the MJO possible could go either back out into phase 1 or go back out into phase 2, which would favor the Atlantic over here, especially in September because of climatology. The MJO favors the Atlantic best from about in this zone of the MJO all the way over into phase 4. So we have a extra phase to look forward to here when it comes to any development. Now, when we look at the GFS here, let's take a look at that. We can see that the MJO is going to go pretty much directly over into the center of the null phase. That's the 0, the unit of circle, meaning that there is no MJO activity. In fact, 0 MJO activity on the GFS. And that is why the GFS is not too excited anymore about any tropical development after our area of disturbed weather that is coming off of Africa, which still has a slim possibility of developing. But yes, through the early part of September, the MJO is going to be going to sleep for a little bit and then should reawaken by the time we go into the second week of September and beyond. But this is very there's a lot of uncertainty with the propagation of that to give us any forcing. So with that, let's take a look here at the GFS model to see if we have anything out there to be concerned about. And what we do have is we do have our area of disturbed weather that does try to develop here north of the Leeward Islands. So at this moment, the Leeward Islands should not be too concerned about this right now unless it really takes off. And this is all because of where Erin is located here. This is going to keep this part of the ridge eroded. Okay, it's right here. There's still a break that does take place with the ridge over here and another weak ridge over here. And so this alleyway remains open. So our other disturbance here goes out to sea and follows behind Erin, kind of copycatting Erin here, in other words. And that doesn't really become much, maybe a tropical depression or so, and that's about it. And then beyond that, we are not seeing anything in the way of tropical development in the next 10 days. So things should be winding down nicely, which is good news because that way I could fit in a winter forecast, maybe do a fall forecast as well. Because of course, my strong point here on the YouTube channel is winter weather, tracking winter storms, snowstorms, blizzards, and much more, ice storms, as well as other kinds of weather, even back here at home where I live, because of course we do get some big storms and sometimes we end up going live on those storms if necessary. But yeah, I don't see anything too alarming at all on the GFS. As matters of fact, this is a very, very stable pattern. There is nothing but strong trade winds blowing across here in the Atlantic, even in low latitudes. So our intertropical convergence zone is going to get very far south from where it was before. And that's because of all the stability that we have. And on top of that, guess what we have? We have a lot of vertical wind shear that is going to be on the increase. Again, part of that MJO, that sinking phase of the Madden-Julian oscillation, bringing a lot of vertical wind shear across the Atlantic. So I am not too confident right now that September is going to be starting off really busy. And that's a good thing, right? Hey, if we don't see much activity in September, that is good news for everyone. We have yet to get our first landfall. Well, we already had our first landfall. We had Andrea, then we had Chantel, but so far, we've been looking really good and clean as far as any system, any major hurricane or any hurricane making landfall, and has not happened yet. So let's keep the streak going. Keep us on a clean slit of paper, in other words. But of course, wishing all we want doesn't get us anywhere. But I'll tell you, this vertical wind shear, you guys will probably say, oh, the Atlantic is unfavorable for early September. This is typical, all right, because of the MJO. We had a favorable period. It arrived a little earlier than we thought. I think by the middle, the back or the second half of September, I think beyond about the 13th or the 14th, I think is when things are going to get cooking in the Atlantic yet again. And we are going to have, and I strongly believe, we are going to have a hyperactive, backloaded hurricane season. All right. Yeah. If we can see a major hurricane in the middle of the month of August, a category 5 especially, we can certainly see more category 4 or 5 hurricanes in the month of September. We are not done yet. All right. So even so, you see the vertical wind shear and you're telling yourself, man, it looks very unfavorable out there. And you're right. It is going to be unfavorable with this vertical wind shear increasing. But as we go into, again, that second week of September, I think things are going to get more busier. And we can see this here on the CFS. So again, to end out August, we have, again, this vertical wind shear, that red anomaly that is over much of the Caribbean. But watch what happens by the, let's see, this is, yeah. So this is basically that second week of September. Still a little bit of vertical wind shear out here, a little stronger than usual. But look at out here in the Caribbean, looking pretty light with the vertical wind shear. And look at here, especially by the time we go all the way into the middle of September, vertical wind shear is going to be very light. So yeah, we got to watch September. We really do. Blue anomalies here indicating no vertical wind shear at all, including over here, not much vertical wind shear. This whole area is looking pretty dang quiet in terms of deep layer shear being above average. This is all neutral to below average. Now, when we take a look here at our CFS, you can see here, of course, things look to pick up, especially as we go into perhaps, again, very early or towards the middle of September. Look at out over here in the Gulf. We'll need to watch for homegrown systems as well as more MDR development out here. But the CFS doesn't do the super best job at resolving things. But that's something that we do consider. We have to take into consideration, including for our monthly outlook here. Look at all this anomaly, all above average rainfall, and then more out here in the MDR where we need to watch. Also, let's take a look here. Vertical wind shear anomaly. Yeah, look at September. All below average. There is not much vertical wind shear out here. So again, September needs to be watched very closely, as well as October, with any vertical wind shear mainly looking at the easterly direction here, which means, yes, definitely favorable background environment, looks to continue all the way through October, and then and even perhaps into November. Look at this. Our vertical wind shear values are very light down here in the Caribbean. So yeah, we might get some very, 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 very early sneaky development out here, out of the MDR, or not out of the MDR, but out of the Caribbean. And maybe things curve strongly like this as they run into this jet of stronger upper level winds perhaps. So yeah, maybe staying busy through early to mid-November is not out of the question here, and that's how it's been lately in the last few years where we have had backloaded activity into November. So that's basically what we're looking at here, and the vertical wind shear, even from a zonal wind anomaly perspective, purple colors indicate lighter westerly winds, stronger easterly wind anomalies, and that continues. Looks like winter this year, the jet stream looks to be much weaker according to our NAM, or according to our CFS model. Interesting to see that, actually. Interesting. And then we'll have to look at next year's hurricane season all over again. We'll do it over and over again. Do you guys have any questions? Any questions at all? But yeah, this is a look at the hurricane right now. This is pretty dang strong. This is trying to get more stronger and more stronger. Is it going to be bad in North Carolina, especially over far eastern North Carolina? Yes. Strong near tropical storm or at tropical storm force winds. Definitely some tropical storm force wind gusts and some very, very, very rough surf. Very rough oceanic conditions. Lloyd. What is the peak elevation right now of the storm? We're at a category 2 hurricane, category 2 with 100-mile-an-hour winds. How about for September? Right now for September, I would say East Coast storms are some slim possibility, but as we transition into the peak of hurricane season, it is going to be the Caribbean, the Gulf, and of course the southwestern Atlantic that we need to keep an eye. So yeah, we could get some development here. It scores up over the Bahamas and turns like this, similar to Isaias. Kind of with what we're seeing with Erin is kind of the baseline of what we might end up seeing for sure in September. By the way, if you all are enjoying the live coverage on Hurricane Erin, as well as some other stuff that we needed to talk about as we get into the peak of hurricane season on when I think it's going to get busy, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't been here before. Slap that like button and slap the bell notification icon to get all my daily tropical weather updates, including live discussions and live coverage on the tropics. Yeah, so sea surface temperatures, I wanted to show you all this. It is warm. It is definitely warm out there. And again, it's the background state that needs to get more conducive. In fact, if we actually go over to the to this page here, showing you all this instability, we're going up. We're going up, and it's going to be a matter of how much instability will we get as we go into September. Will we get well up here to get things going, or will it be kind of a unfavorable environment a little longer? Let's take a look here at the East Coast. We have plenty full of instability, and of course in the Caribbean we have enough instability as well, slightly below average, but recently we have had a lot of instability developing there in the Caribbean. And then of course in the Gulf, instability is far above the long-term average right now, and that means that the chances of anything getting into the Gulf are low right now, but it wouldn't take much of a small circulation or a disturbance to really spin up relatively quickly. So, yeah, we're going to need to keep an eye on this storm for sure, because it is trying to get its act together a little bit more. It'll be interesting to see what it looks like in the morning. You can see that system really firing up that convection on the northern side. And this is what it looks like. This is the 3D. Is Florida screwed? No, Florida is not screwed. This is already past of it even impacting Florida. So the risk of this hitting Florida is now 0%. All you need to worry about is the surf that this is going to generate. That's really about it. Daytona Beach looks to get huge waves. Oh, yeah. Daytona Beach is going to get some big time surf. Anything along the coast here, such as St. Augustine, if you are in Brunswick, if you are up the coast here of Charleston, as well as Wilmington, North Carolina, the surf is only going to get higher the further to the northeast you go here along the coast of the Carolinas. But yeah, 10 to 12 feet in Daytona Beach cannot be ruled out. Actually, let's take a look at surfline.com because they have surf forecast, surfline.com. So we can show you that. And as we look here, especially over Cape Hatteras, let's look at the surf there. Let's go to the surf forecast. And you can see surf is going to only get bigger and bigger here. Peaking at even 35 feet. 35 feet here is where our surf is expected to be. Look how big this is. 30 to 35 foot waves. And this would be for Frisco surf. So Frisco area of the Outer Banks. Expecting to see some very, very high breaking waves. That is a guarantee. And the primary swell would be from the southeast, from that hurricane. Yeah, this gets way up there, way up there. Yeah, getting up to even 23 feet. So that's one surf area. Let's actually look at another area here on the map. So like here's another area. This is 8 to 12 feet right now. Let's actually look down here on the map. And you can see here up to 25 to 30 feet. 25 to 30 foot waves along the Outer Banks of North Carolina. See if we can find anything that would be even higher, perhaps. Let's see. Rodanthe. Wow, 15 to 18 feet. See how high that's going to get. Oh, yeah, look at this. 35 to 50 feet. You saw it right here. 35 to 50 foot waves near Rodanthe. Near Rodanthe. So that's very big. And you're seeing it for yourself on the Surfline website. Surfline, go type up surfline.com and go to maps and you could find this. That is their forecast. I'm not making this up. This is their forecast that they're calling for. That's pretty big. That is very, very big surf. Yeah, 35 to 50 feet. What's the point? Break level like? Okay. Yeah, I don't use TikTok much anymore. I'm probably going to get back on to doing TikTok, but the weather is going to be more respected. Not going to be a fearmonger freak out there on other platforms. So, yeah, I'm mainly really active right now, though, on X. If you guys want to follow me over there, which is basically formerly known as Twitter. So yeah, Erin is not going to hit North Carolina directly, but the wind field will penetrate. Tropical storm force winds will be a thing. He's saying that the area near Rodanthe is called a point break. Yeah, and that's why waves are going to be up to maybe 50 feet tall. It goes to show you that maximum individual wave height, I'm telling you. There is going to be coastal flooding. There is going to be coastal impacts. And there are people that live right over here. So if you are right along the peninsula here, please, this is your time to get out of harm's way. This is the time to get out of harm's way. I do not want anybody to drown, to get injured. This is not a good system to be in. This is not a time to go to the beaches and to go strolling, because this is going to produce some of the biggest waves in a long, long time. And honestly, you know, I'm sorry if I sound like I'm fear mongering, but this is serious. This is something to take into consideration. And you will learn just how intense a hurricane can be felt away from its inner core structure. Now, of course, if this was going to be a category 5 hurricane and it being super compact, then I would be like, you know what? I'm not going to stream this. There's no need to talk about it. But look at how large this system is. The wind field is just courageous. It's just crazy. Upgraded to category 3. What? It's upgraded to a category 3. No. No, it's not. There is no update that says it's a category 3. But the forecast does call for a category 3. So by 8 in the morning on Thursday, it would be a category 3, but not right now. Gosh, if we saw a category 3 right now, it'd be rapidly intensifying, and sure hex, we do not want that. That's the last thing we want to see with this hurricane, is pull another big one on us. Thank you so much. I'm glad you like the 3D a lot. Brownie girl. I think that's how you say it, right? Brownie something. But I will tell you what, honestly, you guys can all agree with me. I am so freaking glad to stop updating on this on this hurricane. After tomorrow, I think we could finally be done with this piece of crap hurricane. It should not be over here. It should have been out of harm's way already, but this thing has been just chugging along so dang slow. So honestly, I am so glad that this is almost done. We only have another day of this, and then she is out of here. Get the F out of here, Erin. You don't belong here. And then I could actually make my winter forecast and maybe make my fall forecast for you all, because you all liked that last year. You guys enjoyed it so much. So I do want to do that, but it's being put on hold because of what you're seeing in front of you. Stupid hurricane. Will Hurricane Erin affect Greenville, North Carolina? So that's over here. So let me go over to that. Greenville. So Greenville, North Carolina. There is a slim possibility that you do get some gusty winds, but nothing too extreme by any chance. You'll probably see wind gusts probably up to about maybe 20 to maybe 25-ish miles an hour, but nothing too extreme or extraordinary. Forecast for Delaware. So let's actually go to our models on that. And let's do this. Let's go to our tropical. Let's go to our regional. Let's go to our global models. Let's use the European model since it's probably a bit more reliable overall. Actually, let's just do this because that's going to take forever to load. So right now for the Northeast, let's go to that. So for Delaware, that is, you're expecting to see winds that are near tropical storm for, oh wait, no, this is low level winds. There we go. So yeah, surface winds for Delaware on the order of about 18 to 26 miles an hour with wind gusts probably up to about 40 miles an hour is anticipated over the Delaware area. But it's not going to last a whole long time because that system is going to be out of there by Friday morning. And then, in fact, perhaps, yeah, actually Thursday, we'll talk about Erin one last time, of course, on Thursday. Probably make a special morning video on it. Maybe do a live stream if necessary. And then she is out of here. She is gone, gone, gone. Goodbye, baby. Goodbye. It was nice knowing you for almost 40 advisories, something like that. Oh, they did, Lisa. Wow. What's up, Ashley Cameron? How are you doing? Welcome, welcome to the stream. It's an honor that you're here. Welcome, welcome. We're tracking Hurricane Erin here tonight for a little bit. But we're not going to spend any time on the models tonight because I'm pretty confident that anything that is out there in the MDR, let's actually take a quick glance at that. Those are going away. You can see the orange area is going to turn even sooner than Erin did. So I am not too concerned about this area of disturbed weather, and I'm pretty confident that it is not going to develop in the Leeward Islands. And if it develops, it's going to be out over here somewhere. So therefore, that's why you notice my thumbnail does not have any of those highlighted areas. And then, of course, this area over here has a 30% chance of tropical development. I don't think that's going to do much, and that's Invest 99L. Some models are picking it up as being a tropical storm. Some YouTubers are already talking about it becoming a hurricane already. You're jumping to conclusions already about that. And most of the model guidance does not suggest that we will see any more tropical storm or hurricane development through the rest of August. I'm pretty confident in that. But once we go into September, though, that's going to be a different story. The second half of September, I predict, I think it's going to get pretty ugly. Possibly, again, a hyperactive period for the second half of September. So, yeah. This is Erin. She is nasty. So, latest recon mission does not find the wind maximum just yet. But the pressure will might be falling. We'll wait for a drop zone to get be retrieved so we can get the pressure, actual air pressure. So, but yeah, that is what we're looking at right now. And let's play this through for you all. What's up, again, Ashley? I like the term awesome sauce. What the heck? Hold on, this froze on me. Nice, good crash to the system. Let's bring it back up. There we go. There we go. We can see this in 3D again. But yeah, you can see the deep convection. The thunderstorms that are going on. Gulf of America will have to be mentioned late August and early September. Yeah, you know what, actually? Let's take a look at our European model on that ECMWF on their charts. Because the charts will tell us. So let's scroll all the way down here and find what we need. Man, Euro is nice enough to provide all this information. We got to give a whole clap and round of applause to the European Center for Medium Range Forecasting. We're trying to look for it, though. Where are we? By the way, if you guys are a fanfare really quick of the polar vortex, yes, our polar vortex is going to be increasing quite dramatically as we again get into fall. Look at October. The polar vortex will be quite strong. And usually in wintertime is when the polar vortex is usually at its strongest anyways. It's just how climatology works, right? So let me go back and look for... Where is it? Where is it? Oh, there it is. That's what we need. This is what we need right here. So let's go to the North Atlantic. And there it is. There is Erin. There's Erin's chances. And then going forward for... Oh, wait. No, this is tropical storm chances. Here we go. Tropical cyclone chances. So as we go into very early September, this is pretty much with what we're dealing with. Look at your chances. They are very low out here in the MDR, which is good news. So again, of course, I don't see anything significant at all, at least through the end of August. And that's to be expected. We'll go through active phases and lull phases. But by the time we go into the end of the first week of September into the second week, that is when we will need to pay close attention over here across the MDR for additional tropical development. And then by the time we go into the second week of September, that's when things get even more heated up here. All this green, this is pretty far out, and yet they are highlighting already a 40 to 50% chance of MDR development out here. And we will see and wait on, do these storms go like this and they turn like that? Or do they recurve early and go out like this and or like this, right? So we just don't know yet because this is very far out, one storm at a time. What actually happens in reality is different than what the forecast can call for. But looks like the second half of September here, boy, oh boy, it is looking quite red and pink out there, indicating chances are relatively high for tropical development. So that is what we are looking at here. Tropical storm chances are also elevated, especially by the middle of September here, where your chances are high. And then if that's not enough, chances of hurricanes, let's take a look at that. Of course, there's no chances for hurricanes that far out. But let's look at our forecast anomalies here. So if we look at our forecast anomalies, let's get into that. Things are below average. And of course, right now, things are below average out here in the MDR to end August to start September. And then things change as we go into the middle of September. And then, yeah, right here, your chances are a little bit higher than average, even a little higher than average here over Florida. So something to kind of keep in mind here when seeing this. And then the chances of tropical storm force conditions, this is loading, so give it time. There's a little bit of a red speck, there on the map, but otherwise things this far out, it's hard to predict a tropical storm 816 hours out. That's basically what we're looking at. So, yeah, that's a look at the euro. So I think things will be quiet for pretty much once we get past this week. We have a whole entire week to breathe in and breathe out. And I'm probably going to take a day off here and there. Probably going to use up the last day or two of August to take a break, reset myself, reflect, and get ready for the really, really busy part of the season. Because boy, oh boy, it has been a long period since I ever had a break here on YouTube, but I'm glad I do this. I enjoy doing it a lot. All right, it is 8:45, and I think it's time. I'm going to make this one a bit short tonight, just because, for one thing, Erin is doing something a little surprising for us, but nothing too unusual. And then, of course, I'm tired of tracking Erin, honestly. It is getting annoying. Can this thing get done already? And then, hopefully, I have my winter forecast out probably on Friday. I'm going to do that on Friday for you all. Not Friday, Saturday. Because I will be home from work on Saturday. So that will probably be when I do my winter forecast, and then may work on my my fall forecast as well. All right, well, anyways, thank you all for tuning in. I don't think there's not much to talk about other than to track this thing live. If you have not been here before, if you like the content, you like what you see here without the hype and gripe and fear-mongering, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It really, really helps out a lot. Hit that like button, hit that share button, and also leave a comment once this becomes a DVR recording as well. I will continue to update you all on Erin tomorrow, though, a video update, and if necessary, tomorrow night, if this thing actually looks to be a monster, we might do about 5 or 6 hours of live coverage if necessary in North Carolina, just to test everything out. But otherwise, be back here tomorrow with another tropical update on Erin, because what goes on out there in the Atlantic doesn't look that big of a deal right now. Peace out, folks. Share, like, and subscribe. Donate if you wish, and I'll be back tomorrow.